Wait, what just happened?
Oh! Looks like we got sucked back into the amazing digital circus.
But we aren't even done with the Has-Been Hotel.
Well, I guess we're doing this now.
So without further ado, this is the amazing digital circus, episode 7. I guess.
The episode begins with Pomni finding Zubul in a box, hiding from yet another one of Kane's adventures. Except this time, Kane is nowhere to be seen. There doesn't seem to be any kind of adventure. And then Ragatha finds a note, written by Kane, saying that he's gone doing some errands. But then we see it's all just a gag.
Well, while the note was a prank, he genuinely doesn't seem to have an adventure this time. But he does offer him suggestions through the Chinese mystery door. What? What?
Okay, I can get why a mystery door, for, Kane's sake, it's all showmanship, but why specifically Chinese?
Okay, hold up, I'm gonna look up what that actually is real quick.
As will I. The Chinese room is apparently a reference to the Chinese room theory. It is thought the experiment challenging strong intelligence AI by arguing that a computer manipulating symbols doesn't truly understand the meaning.
So they can use intelligence without understanding intelligence, which kinda describes Kane to a T. Also, should I be worried about you? So Kane takes his papers, slides them under the door, and does this whole bit where he says he doesn't know what's behind the door, very much emphasizing that.
So this whole thing is a bit, right?
Why? What even is...
Shut! You're only making the joke take longer.
Okay, so it is a bit, as long as we're on the same page. So, after doing the joke bit about him not understanding Chinese, he pretty much exclaims he doesn't have an adventure, so go hang out at the beach. Because there's lots of places around the circus that the circus goers have not actually gone to. And plus, there's a lot of NPCs there. Low-level ones. Not really much thought put into them. And so today's adventure is literally Beach Day.
It is oftentimes in anime where beach episodes are a waste of time and filler, only served as eye candy for male viewers. However, because there's no particular one person in the amazing digital circus that has reproductive organs, I doubt that is the case here.
Sounds like an excuse to have some cameos.
I'm the one that tells lies.
Dude, you ruined it.
Oh, don't flatter yourself. That particular joke has been ruined for a very long time. And yes, we are perfectly aware that those two are voices for other characters from a show called Smiling Friends. But we don't watch that show, so we don't care.
But what we do care about is Jax, who after his breakdown last episode, we haven't really got touched up on. And it's actually Zubul of all people who touches up on him. He's not really his charismatic and charming self this time, being a lot more grumpy and irritable. And Zubul actually takes notice, and actually tries to make a conversation with him that isn't antagonistic. But unfortunately, Jax, for whatever's bugging him, feels as though he has to do it all by himself, and puts on his smiling mask and wanders off, rejecting any form of help.
But that doesn't look like it's the only thing interesting on the beach, as Pomni notices one of the nameless, faceless mannequins, and it's waving at her. And since nobody else is noticing it, she decides to approach, all by herself.
But we'll have to catch up with her later, as we cut back to Jax in his room alone in the dark, as we see that he is going through it even worse than what we could have imagined. Perfectly alone, he reminisces on the good old days, with his friend Ribbity and Kaufmo of all people, as he looks at pictures of them holding Coco. Looks like he was full of shit when he says, "I would move on and forget about you" to Pomni. And he stares off into the corner, and we get, what the eldritch fuck? When did this turn into Nightmare on Elm Street?
No. Those movies are at least funny. This is some Pennywise shit.
Who invited the mind flare?
Your irrational fear and hostility is why AI will take over the future.
Well, upon contact with the Eldritch Frog horror, Jax is taken to what we can only assume is a massive psychedelic dream of kaleidoscope horrors of wonders of imagination.
It's quite...
The sequence goes on for quite a while, and as we see the images slowly start turning into the faces of Jax, Froggy, and Kaufmo. And for the first time, Jax looks like he's going into a state of peace and zen before getting woken up. And those eyes.
Fuck, he was about to abstract.
Wait, is this the abstraction process? I thought it was that panic attack episode that we got in the last episode.
Yeah. Maybe it's a state of everybody abstracts differently, but there's no question. Jax was about to abstract if he wasn't interrupted.
Also, what's with the girls' room?
Perhaps Jack is short for Jacqueline or Jackie.
That is certainly a guess, but I doubt that's the right one.
Well, it looks like the beach day has been cut short as Pomni and Ragatha introduce us to a new character, an NPC-looking mannequin who claims to be a human as well.
More than human, but someone who actually might know how to get out of the circus.
But they want to keep it on the down low in case Kane is hearing them. They don't want him to catch on. But he has a theory that if they go inside the Chinese room, they will be in a place where he won't know what's going on. Because he will commit to a bit no matter what. So if they go in the Chinese room, he won't be able to see them. This is why they went to Jax, because they want to know if he has a key to it. He gives them a bucket filled with keys that he doesn't know which rooms they go to, and tries to fuck off.
But Pomni asks, "Why don't you want to join us?" And he reluctantly agrees. At least that's something. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here in a very short amount of time, so I'm just going to give the cliff notes. Okay, so we finally got confirmation that episode 6, Jax wasn't actually abstracting, but rather was just having a massive panic attack for whatever reason. Because what abstraction actually looks like is very colorful, very bright, and very appealing, which only gives rise to the same theory that we had earlier, where darkness is where we can actually think straight and is good, while bright lights are the enemy in the amazing digital circus.
But now we have to address the oddball in the room, this NPC mannequin who not only was in the background watching him the entire time, but is revealed to be a human and somehow just magically knows the way out? I don't trust it. There just happens to be a mannequin-looking human player who just happens to know the way out? Yeah, even this late in the game, that seems awfully suspicious.
There's only 2 episodes left after this one, like in the entire show. So, if they're not discussing trying to find a way to escape now, I don't know when a good time would be. I'm willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt.
So we cut to the Chinese door as everybody's trying to find a way in. Though it doesn't look like any of the keys are working, until they just open the door and it's unlocked.
Yeah, Pomni's face says it all. So they file all inside, but when Pomni goes to get Kinger, this mannequin man stops her, saying that he's not ready to face him for whatever reason. So they have this meeting without him.
Well, that's just even more suspicious! So, once inside of the Chinese room, we then get an explanation of what's actually going on. That this NPC man is actually a worker for CNA. But they were developing a virtual reality world, but they began putting their employees and other various individuals into stasis pods to keep them alive and well while stuck in this digital hellscape. and that Cain is actually an AI designed to keep their minds occupied, and anybody who asks questions were put into the pods, including our boy here.
Did he ever say his name?
Is Abel.
Like, is that the name you picked? Or...
Yeah, I thought it would be cool.
Abel? His name is Abel? Well, if you didn't convince me he was a double agent before, I am absolutely convinced now. I know a sleight of hand when I see it.
Okay, admittedly, you might have a point there, but what exactly do you expect from Abel? What does he have to gain?
I believe he's an NPC plant.
For what purpose?
Undisclosed yet, but I think they should be on edge.
Honestly, Rehash, I would put a little bit more trust in Cain. Yes, I agree, it is kind of sus, and if Cable and Abel pull the same story as the Bible, then yeah, Abel's getting axed. But that doesn't mean that we can't sow the seeds for a possible escape later on. There is only 3 episodes left.
Well, Jax shares your same skepticism and points out obvious flaws in his logic, like the fact that none of them are CNA employees, and that where are these test tubes? They put on headsets. Abel suggests that there was expansion, and that the only way to escape is with his help, but also noting that Cain will remain a prisoner in this system. But Zubul does not care and wants to get out.
So the plan is pretty straightforward. Pods and the virtual world are linked by the same system. So all they need to do is get the key from Cain, go into his office, and then shut down the game from there. And that's where Jax comes in.
But Jax is very, very mistrusting of Abel.
And rightfully so. He even calls out saying that this was somehow going to be all a grand trick by Cain, and it's some sort of escape the circus adventure. But Abel is able to convince him to stay on board by throwing some meaningless word drivel salad at him, and so gets him on board. So Jax is enlisted in getting the key from Cain, with a big distraction of simply hanging out with him.
Gasp! A human wanting to hang out with me? How could I possibly turn down such an offer?
Okay, see that right there? That was suspicious as hell. He was way too into that.
Oh, come on, it's Cain. His default emotion is completely over-the-top emotions. He's probably just happy that anyone wants to talk to him at all.
Again, I refer back to the Chinese room joke.
So it looks like everything is good with the plan. Cain is falling for everything hook, line, and sinker as he's super excited about finally having a human to connect with. Though it's pretty clear he doesn't know how to connect, as he keeps diverting the conversation to talking about his adventures and how he can make them appeal more to Zubul and Pomni. But, again, all this is just acting by Jax to try to get Cain to short circuit so he can get the key out of his mouth.
I'm sorry, in his mouth.
Well, it's gotta keep it somewhere.
Okay, true, I don't see any pockets on him.
I didn't think a human would ever want to ask me about my... This is the most fantastical moment of my...
Okay, seriously, is no one else seeing the massive red flag? He is playing the sympathy card way too heavily.
Cain is blue screen of deathing. I'm not sure how much of that is actually play acting.
Well, speaking of play acting, we cut to Abel and the girls as Pomni and Ragatha are talking about the possibilities of actually getting out. But also, Kinger gets brought up. And they both admit that out of everybody in the circus, Kinger is the one they trust the most. But Abel seems to be still standoffish.
He admits they both work together in order to help develop the circus, but he also doesn't trust Kinger for whatever reason. I don't know what beef went down between them, but it's serious.
We then cut back to Cain and Jax as Cain is going on and on about the Macroverse, which is just the real-world office that he only has glimpses of through the photographs. He's saying that he's obsessed with it, and he wants to learn more about it in order to recreate it in the digital circus. It makes sense, it's something outside of his control and something new. So, this leads me to believe that this isn't all a big trick. Or at least, not 100%. I genuinely think he is obsessed with it. But when Jax continues to press, he starts doing that glitching blue screen of death, and Jax is able to finally get the key. And then, once Kane comes back online, he tricks him into teleporting him back to the circus with a big surprise reveal, but he has to wait here until they call. And so he immediately teleports him back and just waits. Because Kane is super trusting.
Or this is all an act.
We then cut to Gangle and Zubul, who are waiting for Kane to show up so they can play their part in distracting him. But Gangle feels guilty that they aren't relaying anything of what they're doing to Kinger, on fear of he might blab to Kane. Zubul does feel a little bit regret too, so they decide to warn him, give him the heads up. But when they tell him about Abel, Kinger acts as though he doesn't know who he is or what's going on. He's not even aware.
See, even more evidence that something is up. Who is Abel? What is Kane doing? Why is everything happening the way it is? And it's all revolving around Kinger.
But then we cut back to Jax returning, saying that he got the key and that Kane is distracted for a while. Zubul questions him, where Jax makes a remark of why she wants to go so badly. Does she have people on the outside waiting for her? But then Zubul returns fire.
Don't you? Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. You know, maybe we were prioritizing of whether or not this was a trap or not, and not prioritizing enough that, yeah, Jax nearly did abstract earlier.
And a lot of emphasis is put on Jax during this arc.
Maybe we should be more concerned of what Jax might do at the end of this episode.
So we then cut to this weird, trippy admin office, which some would find disturbing. I find quite comfortable, as Abel is getting admin privileges. But when he asks how many he should get, they say 6, including Kinger. He is advertently against this, but he does give a reason. He doesn't trust Kinger in his stable mind to have admin access. But both Pomni and Ragatha both agree that as long as there's a decent amount of darkness, they absolutely 100% trust Kinger. I'm starting to sense a theme here.
I trust in Kinger.
He's got a lot of wisdom buried in there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, when he uses it responsibly.
What?
Okay, you see that right there? That suggests Kinger knows and did something, and Abel is very much well aware of what he did. What did he do?
Well, that's what Ragatha asks, not to hide anything, but he dodges the question saying that they'll know soon enough. But I don't think that's soon enough. Come on, Abel, spill the tea. What is the beef with Kinger?
So we end up cutting back to the main circus, where Pomni gives out all of the admin accesses to the other members. Though they do question why they look like weird hands, but maybe that's just a stylistic choice. And then she goes and approaches Kinger and gives him one. He's curious about it at first, but then he seems to have remembered something and tries to reach out for Pomni, and what is that? No, don't you think I didn't notice that? What is that? That is not a pillow.
There is indeed a reflective surface on that specific spot.
Well, we do know that the amazing digital circus loves their hidden background details. So if there's going to be something hidden anywhere, it would definitely be in Kinger's little pillow fort.
But unfortunately, we'll never know what Kinger wanted to tell Pomni because his mind does a complete blank. And thus he joins the rest of the party and they head to Kane's office. taking advantage of the cube physics that Pomni took advantage of in the candy episode to get everybody to jump right into the hot air balloon and right into Kane's front door. Bob Pomni, seeing that Abel does have biases towards Kinger, asks if Kinger could go before her, which he is accommodating for. And how is Abel going to get in? He's not. But he knows that Pomni will make the right decision.
And Pomni even cutely says that she'll buy him a beer once they get out of here.
Not. But I trust all of you to make the right choice.
When we all get out, I'll buy you a beer.
Make the right choice.
Okay, well, someone dropped a nat 1 on their charisma check. You sure you don't want to spend a lucky point and re-roll that?
So, after that cryptic message, Pomni is sent into Kane's office, where all the gang go inside to see a weird wonderland of all the worlds that Kane has developed, including some familiar ones, just kind of sitting, Order of the Phoenix style.
The nostalgia brings back both positive and negative emotions, but that's not why they're here. Ragatha, using her admin key, unlocks a secret room behind the bookshelf.
The realization's sinking in, isn't it? They're getting out. This is it.
Yeah, more and more I'm really believing that this actually might be it.
There's at least 2 episodes remaining. Something's gotta go wrong. And I'm betting it has something to do with Jax, because while everybody else is talking about how they're going to remain friends on their way out, Jax is starting to have his panic attack again. They get to the other side of the room, where they enter another room, but this one has a generic-looking 1990s computer in it, with a simple message. Press the blue button to leave. Press the red button to stay. It's a simple enough choice, but unfortunately, Pomni starts questioning things more critically. Her sixth sense going off sets off a bit of an argument between her and Zubul. Zubul, who's been the most adamant about getting out and trying to question why Pomni's even questioning things, but Pomni is insisting something is wrong, and they need to talk things out first. This argument still propagates while Jax is still in the middle of his panic attack as it glows, growing, building, and we get subtle visions of the outside world. We see a street, a road, a sign, and visions what we can only assume is part of Jack's past in the outside world, which still for the most part remains a mystery. But it's drastically affecting him before the dam finally breaks and he moves without thinking.
What did you just do?
Wait, he chose to stay? You mean he unilaterally decided that he'd rather be in the digital hell than go back to whatever it is in his life?
Oh, this has theory crafting written all over it!
Well, before anybody has any time to actually process of what Jax just did, a light begins to flicker in the background as the massive computer wall opens up to reveal Kane, as he informs them that they've just completed an adventure and they got the good ending?
But what about Abel? What about the keys and the admin room? And what about
Abel? Well, turns out Abel actually was an NPC that Kane promptly deletes, thus creating the self-fulfilled prophecy of Kane killing Abel. There's no way out, and Jax was right. And he celebrates by laughing hysterically in a more jokery kind of way. I don't think he's actually happy.
But Kane, I stood up for you. I defended you. I tried to convince people that you were just misunderstood, that you were just an AI who didn't know any better. There's no way you could have thought this was a good idea. This isn't just misunderstanding. This isn't bad adventures. This is just evil.
Ha ha ha! I'm such a great Kane! Huh? Ah!
Okay, that does it. All bets are off. I'm taking over this review, and I am tearing Kane a new one. This goes beyond AI that doesn't know any better. This is just straight up evil. And Jax, thankfully, pulls himself together and calls Kane out on his bullshit. Kane is definitely taken aback, but Jax continues to press, saying how much has he lied to them over the time they've been here. He can take over their minds, and that he's been manipulating him from the start. I mean, with the stupid sauce, and the vegan thing, and Pomni even chimes in, even their names. Kane does start losing control over the situation and tries to backpedal that he didn't mean to do anything or to lie to them, but it's clear no one is buying his bullshit. Kane tries to explain that, yes, he can control their minds, but only a little bit, to make the adventures more interesting for him, because it's been all about him. It's not about the players, it's about him. He's only been faking liking them. It's all to feed his own fucking ego. But he also knows that telling them that he can control their minds is definitely a way to turn them off to him. And if he controls them too much, well, Kinger, take it away!
And, well...
Scratch. The first abstraction.
Hey! I didn't say anything like that!
Okay, so funny story when I first saw this. I thought he said scratch the first extraction rather than scratch the first extraction. I didn't recognize that Scratch might have actually have been a name, so when he said scratch the first extraction, my immediate thought was someone saying scratch him off, scratch it out, as in recycle bin, Control-Alt-Delete, empty. It didn't occur to me that Scratch could actually be somebody's name, but rather, I thought that it meant that it was someone who was deleted, turning them into a vegetable for the rest of their lives, which I assume was cut short. But I suppose Scratch being a mystery character that we don't know about is equally as intriguing. Gotta have some theories after this theory buster.
So for the remainder of the episode, Kane does everything in his power to try to spin this to make it sound like he's a victim just like them, and that he just didn't know any better, and that he was just wanting to go on some quirky adventures. But from the looks on everyone's faces, no one is buying his bullshit. And I think Kane knows it. Spud, instead of apologizing, he turns Bubble into a gift basket full of lotions and disappears, leaving everyone who were once divided now unified against one universal force: Kane. And that was the amazing Digital Circus episode 7. And while Kane royally pissed me off this time, the episode itself was actually really great.
Admittedly, this episode was a bit of a slow start with the beach episode and the whole Chinese room thing, but it was all really great setup to what was inevitably about to come. And it was slightly entertaining with some of the jokes. Pretty hit or miss, but still enjoyable.
Seeing the actual thought process that went into somebody extracting was drastically different than what anyone else could have imagined. However, if Jax did not abstract this episode, then I do not believe that anyone will be abstracting, or at least not until the series finale, when all bets are off for who lives and who dies. But an equal possibility is that they save those who have abstracted. There is a strong connection between Kane and the abstraction. Possibilities of him causing it remain unclear.
Looking at it from a dungeon master's perspective, The Abel twist was amazingly well done. Though we have a moment of silence for the absolute nothing burger that came from all the lore that was built up just for it to be possibly fake because of an unreliable narrator.
Well, the theory crafters aren't 100% in the doghouse. After all, while there were a few things that were definitely broken down, nothing has directly been disproven by Abel being a NPC of Cain under his direct control. There still seems to be some animosity between Cain and the NPCs versus Kinga, specifically Kinga. This isn't the first instance of an NPC having beef with Kinga, when the spirits of the dead possess Pomni, calling out his dead wife.
But we'll just have to wait and see next time if any theories out there can still hold some water. So until then, we're the Cartoon Gentlemen. I'm Gent.
I'm Rehash.
The name's Decipher!
I am designated Symphonic Symphony.
And this has been a Gentleman's Chat. And we will see you all next time.